Mary Tudor, the daughter of Henry VII of England and Elizabeth of York, was Queen of France. Mary became the third wife of Louis XII of France, more than 30 years her senior. Following his death, she married Charles Brandon, 1st Duke of Suffolk. The marriage, which was performed secretly in France, took place without her brother's consent. This necessitated the intervention of Thomas Wolsey, and the couple were eventually pardoned by Henry VIII, although they were forced to pay a large fine. Mary's second marriage produced 4 children. And through her eldest daughter Frances, Mary was the maternal grandmother of Lady Jane Grey, who was the de facto monarch of England for a little over a week in July 1553. First marriage, Queen of France. Mary was the 5th child of Henry VII of England and Elizabeth of York, and the youngest to survive infancy. She was born at Richmond Palace. She and her brother, Henry, were closest children. He named his daughter, the future Queen Mary I, after her. Known in her youth as one of the most beautiful princesses in Europe, Mary was betrothed in December 1507 to Charles of Castile, later Holy Roman Emperor. However, changes in the political alliances of the European powers meant this wedding did not take place. Instead, Cardinal Wolsey negotiated a peace treaty with France, and on October 9, 1514, at the age of 18, Mary married its 52-year-old King Louis XII at Abbeville. One of the maids of honor who attended her in France was Anne Boleyn. Mary was described by the Venetian ambassador as a paradisiac, tall, slender, grey-eyed, possessing an extreme pallor. She wore her glorious silken red gold hair flowing loose to her waist. Despite 2 previous marriages, Louis had no living sons, and sought to produce an heir. But he died on January 1, 1515, less than 3 months after marrying Mary, reputedly worn out by his exertions in the bedchamber. Their union produced no children. Following Louis' death, the new King Francis I made attempts to arrange a second marriage for the beautiful widow. Second marriage, Duchess of Suffolk. Mary had been unhappy with her marriage of state to Louis, as at this time she was almost certainly already in love with Charles Brandon, 1st Duke of Suffolk. Henry knew of his sister's feelings but wanted any future marriage to be to his advantage. When he sent Brandon to bring Mary back to England in late January 1515, he made the Duke promise that he would not propose to her. However, the couple married in secret in France on March 3, 1515. Technically this was treason, as Brandon had married a royal princess without Henry's consent. The king was outraged, and the Privy Council urged that Brandon should be imprisoned or executed. Because of the intervention of Thomas Wolsey, and Henry's affection for both his sister and Brandon, the couple were let off with a heavy fine. They were officially married on May 13, 1515 at Greenwich Palace. Mary was Brandon's third wife, and he had 2 daughters, Anne and Mary, by his second marriage to Anne Brown. She had died in 1511. Mary would raise the girls alongside her own children. Even after her second marriage, Mary was normally referred to at the English court as the French Queen, and was not known as the Duchess of Suffolk in her lifetime, despite being legally allowed to be. Mary spent most of her time at the Duke's country seat of Woolsthorpe Hall in Suffolk. Relations between Henry VIII and Mary were strained in the late 1520s when she opposed the king's attempt to obtain an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, whom Mary had known for many years, and developed a strong dislike for Anne Boleyn, whom she had first encountered in France. Death: Mary died at Woolsthorpe, Suffolk, on June 25, 1533, and was first interred at Bury Street Edmonds Abbey. Her body was moved to nearby St Mary's Church, when the abbey was destroyed during the dissolution of the monasteries. Mary's husband would later marry their son's betrothed, who was also his ward, the 14-year-old Catherine Willoughby, by whom he had 2 sons. Issue: Mary and Brandon had 4 children, 2 daughters and 2 sons, Henry Brandon, Lady Frances Brandon, who married Henry Grey, 3rd Marquess of Dorset, and was the mother of Lady Jane Grey, Lady Eleanor Brandon, who married Henry Clifford, 2nd Earl of Cumberland. Henry Brandon, 1st Earl of Lincoln. Mary and Charles's 2 sons, both named Henry, are commonly mistaken for being the same son. Both boys died when they were children. In popular culture, Mary was portrayed by silent screen star Marion Davies in the 1922 film When Knighthood Was in Flower by Robert G. Vignola, reputed to have been, at the time of his release, the most expensive film ever made. It was one of Davis's biggest hits. Another fictionalized version of Mary's marital adventures is portrayed in the 1953 Walt Disney film The Sword and the Rose starring Richard Todd and Glynis Johns. She is also the subject of the novels Mary, Queen of France by Jean Plaidy, The Reluctant Queen by Molly Costain Haycraft, Princess of Desire by Maureen Peters, and The Secret Bride, in the Court of Henry VIII by Diane Hedger. The novel of When Knighthood Was in Flower, by Edwin Cascoden was published in 1898, and was the source material for both the Davis and the Disney films. She was also fictionalized in the historical fiction novel The Last Bullion by Karen Harper. The drama series The Tudors portrays the relationship between Mary and Charles Brandon, though the character is named Princess Margaret, and is a composite of Mary and her sister Margaret Tudor, portrayed by Gabrielle Anwar. Charles Brandon is portrayed by Henry Cavill. Many liberties have been taken with the story. For example, in the television series, Henry arranges his sister's marriage with the aged King of Portugal, not of France, in the late 1520s. Margaret Mary then kills her husband. Another fictitious subplot has Henry making Charles Brandon Duke of Suffolk so the latter would be of appropriate rank to give away Henry's sister at her supposed wedding to the King of Portugal. In the story, the Tudor-Brandon marriage soon cools and no mention is made of their 4 children. Yet another discontinuity relates to Henry's sister dying before Wolsey. Ancestry, notes. References, Gough, Cecily. A Woman of the Tudor Age. London, John Murray, Plowden, Alison. Lady Jane Grey and the House of Suffolk. Franklin Watts. ISBN A0-531-15000-3. Perry, Maria. The Sisters of Henry VIII, The Tumultuous Lives of Margaret of Scotland and Mary of France. Da Capo Press. ISBN A0-306-80989-3. Richardson, W. C. Mary Tudor, The White Queen. Peter Owen Publishers. ISBN A0-7206-5206-5. Weir, Alison. Henry VIII, King and Court. Pimlico. ISBN A0-7126-6451-3. External links, A short biography, Mary Tudor Gallery, longer biography, studies about famous tapestries representing Mary Tudor, images from the Festival Book of the Betrothal to Charles of Castile.